Hello. So today we are back with another topic, that is an advantage in development. Now, why in chess it is always said that the main principle in the opening is rapid development. This is the simplest rule of chess you can follow to guarantee success in this game. So, if you are aware of this rule, but when it comes to practical play, what happens most of the time the players forget. And today in this game, we will see even grandmasters sometimes when they avoid this means when they try to delay it in mobilizing their forces. What happens even if the position somehow opens, then what will happen, the player who is lagging in development, there are every chances that uh, player will lose the game. So today we have taken a very interesting game. This game is played by the great Mikhail Tal and Ullman. So it is a Moscow 1971 event. So let us see how this game develops, and we'll follow it. So let us start the game. So Mikhail Tal opens with e4, and Ullman starts with e6. So this is a French. So we'll just go on the opening part to understand wherever there is the importance. There we'll stop and we'll discuss it. So let us move forward. These are all standard steps. So the opening you should be aware of. So now bishop b5. Now look at this position. Black has two options to play. So what are the ways black can play from here? So if we see, the knight is been pinned, and uh, what are the ways you can play? One common play is say c into d5 can be played, a6 can be played by black, d into e4 can be played by black, knight to f6 can be played by black, bishop d6 can be played by black. These are some of the common things that can be played. But uh, what you will choose? Pause for a moment and think of your answer. Now, in this position, Ullman played d d into e4. Now, what do we think of this move? Is this move a good move? No, this is a dubious move. Why? Why this is considered a dubious move? You see, black surrenders the center and allows the white knight to take up. So d into e4, so knight into e4 will happen. So now what happens? Knight goes to the central square. You know, when knight goes to the central square, it has maximum. It acquires the maximum power. And also, in addition to that, what it does, it opens the c1 file. So bishop on the c1. So knight, when you will go to e4, bishop on c1 will open, and so these are the things you should remember whenever you take any piece or whenever you go for the exchange. Always remember what are the possibilities you are creating for the your opponent. If you are creating possibilities, more possibilities for that opponent, what you are actually doing, you are actually helping him to develop his pieces. So in the opening, don't give chance to your opponent. Try as far as possible to resist your opponent's play. So in this case, what happened? Knight into e4, then bishop to d7, and bishop to say bishop goes to g5. So you see now what has happened once he captures this pawn, d into e5 happened. What happened? The knight has been placed well, and the bishop also, he gets the tempo. So Ullman, what he does, he gives a tempo, and a player like Mikhail Tal, when they get one extra tempo, not piece I am talking about, if they get one extra tempo, they wins the game. He was one of the greatest magicians of the chess. So now you see how, though the position is equal, you can say, if you analyze this with engine, you will see equal position. But what happens? See the how beautifully Mikhail Tal exploits this position. So now queen to a5 check, and knight goes back and protects it. So let us now see what happens again. So white does not miss this chance to develop with tempo. This you should remember. Whenever you get a chance to develop with a tempo, means you are getting one extra move, you can say. So So say so again in the next move maybe he has to retreat his knight to defend the light square bishop, but that does not so the bishop is what he has done actually. Say an alternative can be what on move 7. So suppose if castle happens, then knight into d4, bishop into d4 check, d7 check, and queen into d7, c3 can be a good compensation. So bishop queen a5 check, and so knight to c3. Now look at this position carefully. Now what should black play again? Black again, what he has to play? In this position he played c into d4. Is it a good move? Is it a bad move, or is it a dubious move? So we can say what he could have done, say another non-developing move. He has not developed. He has the chance to develop his bishop. He has the chance to develop his knight. But instead of doing that, what he has done, he just went on to capture that piece. Now, what was his idea behind that? He thought that somehow capturing this may happen something, or some variations he might have thought about. Let us say try to analyze this position. What may happen? So in the actual game, what happened? In the actual game, it is knight into knight into d4, then bishop d4. Okay. Now the position looks equal, but the problem is what? Problem is, as I told you in the beginning, it is not developing the rapidly in the position. So next castle, and then what happened? Castle. Bishop into c3, b into c3, queen into c3. Now again, see, look here, instead of playing queen into c3, what options he has to play? He can play so I don't think this was a very good move from his side. So if we analyze this position, let us go back a little bit. So say c into d4. So instead of that, what can have been played? Say a6 could have been a very good move. See what actually happened. So let us consider this move again. So bishop to b4. Now what can be a better option for this? So black is way back in development. Okay, so he has to develop his knight, then castle. So bishop to b4 was not a very good move. Why? Uh, we can say even so behind in development, black goes after a pawn, and in this process what he gives up a key piece, the main defender of the dark square. Now a6 is simply essential. So instead of playing this one, he could have kept his dark square bishop, because you see the dark square will be weakened. He would actually get a pawn after bishop into bishop into once he castles, then bishop into c3. Then the queen can take this pawn. But look at this position. What happens? He got a pawn, but instead of this pawn, he could have actually played a6 and kicked out bishop, or he could have just developed the pieces. Now, black, he doesn't have any control on the dark square. So next is what? Castle. So queen into c3. So let us proceed and see what happens next. Now this is a very good move. See, knight to f5. This is an excellent move. If the knight is not taken, it lands on the d6 SS square. So now it has to be taken. Otherwise, what happens? You see, you calculate the position, knight to d6, and it goes to a very beautiful square. So it has to be taken, and once he takes it, say after taking this one e into f5, what happens? Now see the beauty, how that's why Tal is called a magician. So now you see, you can see the beauty of Tal's game. Now here black resigned simply. So if we go back to the game again, let us go back to the game and let us see some of the key points of the game. Say at this position. Yeah, let us go back to the position from where we actually started, it started deteriorating. So whenever this decisions has to be taken, remember one thing, instead of development, do will go for the pawn capture. So he could have developed, normally he could have developed, because this he is not losing a pawn or something else, he could have developed in the normal way and could have played a game. But instead of that, instead of development, he choose to attack or take up the pawn. Then slowly these positions arised, then again he gave up this dark square bishop, and then this beautiful move. How many players can play this move? This was the beauty of Mikhail Tal. He could play some moves which most of the players would miss. So now you can see that's a completely winning position he got. So I hope you have learned something, the importance of development in a game. So with this, we come to an end to this video. Thank you.